Hello, everyone, and welcome to the second episode of TCN Presents the Cultured Pull List. I'm Mike, and my co-host is Luke.
Hey guys.
Oh, hey, Luke, what are we going to talk about in this episode?
Today's episode, we will be looking at the last four issues of Dark Crisis, number 4 through 7.
Awesome. All right. Well, let's just jump right into it then. All right. Hello, everyone. Before we jump into the actual comics we're going to talk about today, let's just introduce ourselves a little bit because we kind of forgot to do that last time. Luke, do you want to go first?
Yeah, I'll go first. My name is Luke. I'm a big nerd. I love reading books and comics and movies. I've published a couple books of my own, going to film school. I don't know what else to say. That's pretty much it.
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah, I'm Michael. I'm also a huge nerd. Been one since I was like a little kid. The
Hmm.
first movie I ever saw was Sam Raimi's first Spider-Man movie, and I was like 3 years old. I technically wasn't supposed to see it, but I kind of like just stood in the hallway when my parents were watching it. So that kind of like sparked my love of all things comics. And yeah, I've been collecting comics since I was since I was a little kid. Since I think for some reason they decided to publish Spider-Man or republish Spider-Man comics in the newspaper when I was like 6. I don't really know why. They just kind of reprinted the original Amazing Spider-Man run. So I
Hmm.
just kind of started collecting them then, and then when I was older started like actually buying new ones. So yeah, I'm not going to film school. No, actually my career stuff is a little less, well, it's still nerdy, it's more science based, but I'm a lab tech, so there's that. So yeah, that's that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess let's just hop into our comics.
All right.
First off, I do want to say we haven't calling it Dark Crisis because that was like the original name.
Yeah.
Like I think the first 2 issues I think are just called Dark Crisis, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah. I think
First,
so.
yeah, the first two, and then I think it wasn't until, actually not until like the fourth one maybe,
Yeah,
that
I
they
have
started calling it.
4, 5, and 6 right here, and they're all on, and they all have the Infinite Earths little tagline at the end. So
Yeah, I think because it was during Comic Con
yeah,
that they first mentioned like Dark Crisis on Infinite Earths, which like it makes sense that that it was like a sequel to Dark Crisis or Infinite Crisis on, or not Infinite
yeah,
Crisis. What the heck am I
Crisis
saying?
on Infinite
Crisis on
Earths.
Infinite Earths. There we go.
Yeah,
Um, it made sense given Pariah and just how everything was going with the multiverse, but I guess they decided to give it the official tagline.
yeah.
But
For branding, it makes sense, but it just kind of
yeah,
sounds too clunky. I just like saying Dark Crisis better.
same. It's like, I mean, honestly, the original was kind of clunky too, Crisis on Infinite Earths, and then just
Yeah,
adding another word onto it.
right, right.
But anyway, let's hop into issue 4, which is called Crossovers. And as all of these are, it's written by Joshua Williams, and the artist is Daniel Sampier, and it was released on September 6th, 2022. So a few months ago at this point. Now it starts out where we left off, was with Hal Jordan was trapped by a pariah in his own, weird fantasy world where he didn't have his ring, but he was being confronted by these weird fantasy Green Lanterns, which I think one of them was Kyle Rayner, who was dressed kind of like a Green Lantern version of Justice,
Yeah, and there
which
was
is kind of
also
interesting.
Jason Todd was there for some reason as well.
Oh, okay, I forgot. Yeah, it's kind of weird, but
Yeah,
it starts out with Hal trying to fight them, but he doesn't have his power. For some reason he doesn't have his ring
hmm
in this world, so he's just there in like his flight suit. And the Green Lanterns are about to kick his butt. But then Barry Allen just shows up with some little tagline saying like, you might call Hal brave and bold.
hmm
And he ends up saving Hal from those fantasy Green Lanterns, and he tells Hal that he's been traveling between the different worlds that Pariah's trapped the Justice League in, but he hasn't been able to snap any of them out of it really,
hmm
until he got there with Hal, and he's saved him. So he told Hal he needs his help to go basically break the other Justice League members out of Pariah's control.
Yeah, is it
Yeah.
stated why he went to Hal first, like why he needed him specifically, or was it just the first one he came across?
He didn't come to him first. He actually went to the others first, but he wasn't able to break them out of it. Or at least he went to some of the others
Okay.
because later on he mentions that he did fight
Right.
Batman already.
Yeah.
So it's not clear. I'm guessing he just kind of hopped from world to world, and since Hal actually recognized him, he's like, you're obviously not under Pariah's control. I think is the
Gotcha.
idea.
Okay.
They aren't super explicit with it, but
Mhm.
um, yeah. So let's see. Yeah, then we cut to the basically the darkness is moving in an erratic pattern around the multiverse, but it's still spreading.
Mhm.
Mr. Terrific is saying that like Deathstroke seems to be like the cause of it.
Yeah.
And we also then go to Nightwing, who's still at Beast Boy's hospital bed.
Mhm.
And Alan Scott shows up to kind of give Nightwing a pep talk. And Nightwing is like saying, just like, I kind of failed Beast Boy, and he's not waking up because his brain basically thinks he's dead,
Mhm.
after like all the trauma he went through and after Deathstroke, shot him in the actual head.
Right.
But Alan Scott basically gives Nightwing a pep talk and is like, we need you, and you're one of the only people that can really, lead this fight against Deathstroke and to save the multiverse. So
Mhm.
then we go over to the Legion of Doom, and last issue, Black Adam showed up at the Legion of Doom headquarters and was saying, like, the Justice League, there's a bunch of kids, they're going to fail. I'm going to ally myself with people who might, be able to stop this. So the Legion of Doom is arguing amongst themselves whether they're going to trust Lex Luthor. I think like Grodd really is against trusting him, whereas Lex Luthor wants to hear him out. But before
Mhm.
anything can really happen, Deathstroke and his army of I guess his dark army show up and start attacking, while Pariah watches from his lair out in multiverse 2.
Mhm.
And Kyle and the Green Lanterns are trying to fight Pariah's army during all this, but he's just kind of like standing there and just kind of watching them, like they're not really making much headway.
Mhm.
But he does reveal that the Green Lanterns attack, as well as Barry hopping between the different worlds, is powering his machine, and
Right.
it's basically too late to stop it. It's going to destroy the multiverse and create the new one that Pariah wants to make,
Mhm.
which I think is supposed to be a copy of his original multiverse, which is
Right.
separate from the main multiverse. Um, so while all that's going on, Barry and Hal, the first world they go to is Batman's world, and it's this really like intricate but very like
Like steampunk almost.
yeah, steampunk like clockwork world,
Yeah.
which is I found kind of interesting. I guess that makes sense on a certain level because Batman's very like logical to the point where he,
Mm.
kind of suppresses his emotions a lot. So
Yeah.
I think that's kind of the idea that like everything works perfectly like clockwork. But
Mhm.
at the same time, I was kind of expecting something more like dark or something,
Okay.
like more like a nightmare world, I guess, because he like,
Mm.
or at least shadowy, you know.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure. I didn't read there's 'cause every Justice League member has their own, like, a spin-off comic where it, like, focuses on their specific
Yeah,
world.
yeah.
But, I mean, it's kind of like a Victorian, like, Gothic era kinda thing.
That's a
That's
good
kind of
point.
what I
Yeah.
got, but I don't know. I didn't read any of the spin-offs, so I'm not sure.
I didn't either. Yeah, I just read the main ones. But yeah, I guess that makes sense if you're going from that kind of point of view. But Batman finds them and he and Barry start to fight because he's still under Pariah's control.
Mhm.
And then we see the JSA or Alan Scott and some of the Justice Society members and Nightwing, John, Wonder Girl, John being Superman,
Yeah.
going to see Justice League Dark, which I'm guessing that's the House of Mystery or something. They don't really
Mhm.
say, I don't think, but
Yeah.
that's what I'm assuming because that's the Justice League Dark's base of
Right.
operations.
Right, right, right.
And they meet Constantine and the Detective Chimp. But also, there's two Swamp Things there, which I'm not really
Mhm.
sure. I'm assuming one is the original Alec. And do you know who the other one is?
Not off the top of my head,
Yeah,
no.
he says something about being new to this thing, so I'm assuming it's a newer Swamp
Sure.
Thing character. But the original Swamp Thing says that given his past experience with Crisis on Infinite Earths and the Great Darkness, he thinks
Mhm.
that something is corrupting the Great Darkness. The Great Darkness, like the way it's working now, doesn't seem to be the way it used to.
Right.
And then we go back to the Legion of Doom fighting Deathstroke, and it seems to be kind of like back and forth for a while. But eventually, Deathstroke just starts corrupting the whole Legion of Doom, and really, Black Adam is the only one that is not corrupted.
Mhm.
Literally, everyone else is. And then at the very last, actually, I forgot to throw this thing up. Let me find it. Yeah, I meant to throw that up. Kind of a cool shot there of
Mhm.
um, them. But then at the very last page, we see that Pariah's machine
Christmas was a month
actually.
ago, man.
Yeah, right. Oh gosh, no, it's still affecting me, man. She never leaves.
No.
Pariah's machine works, and it basically brings forth a new multiverse.
Right.
And yeah, a new multiverse was born. Very dramatic. And that is it for issue 4. What did you think of that issue overall?
It was all right. We're starting to get
Mhm.
towards the end, and I have a lot of issues toward the end of the story. I mean, I like it
Oh, okay.
overall, but it starts to kind of fall apart towards the end, and this is sort of like the
Okay.
beginning of
Fair enough.
that, I guess. But it was fine.
Yeah, it was kind of more of a I don't know if I'd say a filler issue, but it was just kind of like a
Almost
kind of going
exposition.
from yeah, exposition to just trying to get you from point A to point B.
Hmm.
Kind of thing. So yeah, I didn't hate it. I thought the best part of it was the fight between the Legion of Doom and Deathstroke's forces. I thought that was pretty cool.
Hmm.
But that was kind of a minor part of the issue for the most
Yeah.
part. Um, so yeah, I guess we can move on to issue 5,
Hmm.
which is titled Together, same author and same artist, and it was released on October 4th, 2022. Now, this one opens. The first panel is a multiversal map, which I thought was really cool to see, and you
Yeah.
see the darkness kind of
Hmm.
spreading around it. But what I found interesting was that like red sphere in the middle. The outer border of it is called the Speed Force border,
Uh,
which was interesting. I'm assuming that is just kind of where the speedsters can travel in the multiverse is only in that at,
mhm.
at least normally. Later on, we see them,
Yeah.
breaking out of that. But and then there's like the monitor sphere, which I'm not really sure. I forget what that would be. I mean, obviously
Mhm.
related to the monitor, but I think that probably goes more in depth in one of the other like spin-off issues that I didn't read.
Yeah.
Um, no, so there's that, but then we also see that Black Adam is fighting for his life against the Legion of Doom, who has been
Mhm.
corrupted. Um, and right at the last second, right when he's about to be defeated, some heroes show up to save him. Mr. Terrific, Supergirl, Aqualad, and Sideways teleport in and basically grab him and teleport him away to the Hall of Justice, where Mr. Terrific tells, I believe, Nightwing and Barbara Gordon and whoever else is there that Deathstroke is the key to spreading the Great Darkness.
Mhm.
And the heroes around the world that Deathstroke has been, well, Deathstroke and his forces have been attacking,
Right.
have been spreading the darkness to these heroes. So it's not just villains that are being affected, it's some heroes around the world as well.
Mhm.
And then we see Pariah, who is marveling over his new infinite Earths. And the Green Lanterns are pretty much subdued at this point. So he just kind of chilling with his new multiverse, feeling like he's already won.
Mhm.
And inside Batman's fantasy world, Barry and Batman are going at it. But Hal is basically able to break through the illusion, which he didn't actually lose his ring. The illusion of that fantasy
Right.
world made it seem like he didn't have his ring. But once he realizes that, he's basically just kind of like he breaks through it
Mhm.
mentally and
Yeah.
is able to regain his power. And he actually shows Batman a construct of the Bat family,
Mhm.
which kind of snaps Batman out of it and brings him back to reality. which I thought was kind of cool. This is the second time in this series that Hal has made a construct of some DC characters. I think in issue 2 or 3, he used a construct of the Justice League to fight Pariah.
Yeah.
So I think that's kind of cool, and that's something that you don't see super often in like really live action or animated media, is the Green Lanterns using their constructs to like basically make clones of people. Which I think is kind of cool that they can do that, but you don't really see it a whole lot.
Yeah.
So while this is going on, Dick and the other heroes that are still around are trying to gather more heroes to their cause. Some heroes say no, like Blue Beetle, Jaime Reyes. I found it interesting, but he refuses to join them. I'm guessing he's just scared for himself and his family, but they don't really go into much detail there.
Yeah.
But Beast Boy actually wakes up from his coma, and he suits up to fight alongside the rest of the heroes. And the Justice Society members, it seems like they leave to go, I guess, help the rest of the multiverse. And I'm assuming that leads into some other spin-off. You know, that always seems to happen. Like, oh, well, bye. I'll see us in our own series, you know. But right after the Justice Society leaves, John Kent shows up with the Swamp Things and Raven with Pariah's antimatter machine, which apparently he had in the original Crisis on Infinite Earths. Apparently that's what triggered the original Crisis, was his antimatter machine.
Yeah.
So they found it. Apparently it happens like they find it in some other issue called The Deadly Green. But again, we haven't read the spinoff, so you know, it's like, how much do you want us to read, folks? But he does confirm that Pariah is not being controlled by the Great Darkness, but is instead corrupting it and using it for his own whims, though he seems to think that, you know, he's talking with the Great Darkness. Right as that revelation comes to light, Deathstroke shows up with his huge army and starts to attack the Hall of Justice. And Nightwing and the heroes start to go to meet them in battle, but Black Adam shows up and, you know, is like, you guys, you're a bunch of kids. You can't take these guys on. If if the Justice League fell, how are you guys gonna do anything? And he even says, like, you aren't the Justice League. And Dick has this really cool, line that's like, we were never the Justice League. We're the Titans or whatever. And then they all, like, there's this big group shot of them flying into battle. It's super cool. And then obviously a battle ensues, and Deathstroke sends Rose to kill Nightwing, which, I don't think, that nothing really comes of that because she's defeated, I'm pretty sure, like, pretty quick. But anyway, Hal, Batman, Flash, and Wonder Woman all visit Superman. They kind of freed Wonder Woman, I guess, like, off page, kind of. They didn't really. Maybe I'm assuming there's probably a Wonder Woman tie-in comic, so maybe they freed her in that one. But they didn't really say. But they visit Superman, who is on his own world, and he's kind of old, or at least older. He looks more like Kingdom Come Superman. He's got like the gray sideburns. Right. And apparently he's lived there many years with Lois and John. And he tried to escape a few times, but he was never able to. But he was able to basically become lucid in this dream world, and he can basically control it. And he basically becomes like energy god Superman, kind of. Like, he just like transforms into like this crazy version of Superman, which is kind of cool. And he tells the heroes, Hal, Flash, all the rest, that I guess their mental connection to their worlds can bring the rest of the League together if they focus on reality and their friendship. The power of friendship. But no, it's more like focusing on what's real. That's supposed to bring them, I guess, together and out of their fantasy worlds. So then we cut to Pariah, who's still happy about the darkness spreading across the multiverse, but it turns out his new multiverse are unstable, and he needs more power from other Earth Zero heroes. And then the Justice League shows up, all broken out of their separate worlds, there to kick some Pariah butt. But right before they can really do any. Oh well, he also right before Pariah teleports away, which he does. He says something about he killed Green Arrow, so if they
Mhm.
go back to the real world, Green Arrow will stay dead. Which
Okay.
I'm not really sure how that happened. I'm guessing that happened in like the prequel comic. I'm
Yeah,
not.
okay. I
I'm
don't
a
know I don't know if it when it happened, but apparently when I read it, I missed that part because later on
yeah.
when Green Arrow was like, "I can't go on," I didn't really understand that part. But now that okay, I understand, like, probably I killed him somewhere at some point in the earlier.
Yeah, that's what he says. So,
Okay.
but before they can fight Pariah, he's teleported away to Earth Zero because that's, I guess, you know, well, ground zero for the multiverse breaking apart.
Right.
And at the very end, we see Black Adam joins the Titans and fighting Deathstroke's army,
Mhm.
and who he had been like pretty much hiding out with Mister Terrific in like the Hall of Justice while they were fighting. So he
Yeah.
shows up to fight, and at the very last page, we see Pariah showing up with all of his um, minions, I guess, that we already saw that defeated the Justice League. So yeah, things are looking kind of bleak. What did you
Yeah.
think of this issue?
It was good. I liked it. It really apparently I missed that one line of dialogue that kind of confused me about what happened later on. But I kind of now
Uh-huh.
that I understand that, it makes a little bit more sense.
Yeah. Yeah, I thought this was pretty cool because things are ramping up. There's more
Yeah.
battles going on. I thought the whole Titans charging into battle together was super cool, and just that
Mhm.
fight between Deathstroke's army and them was really engaging. And also, I thought that
Yeah.
was interesting with that whole thing with Superman. It reminded me a lot of kind of a mix of, well, like he looked like Kingdom Come Superman,
Mhm.
but it also honestly reminded me of that one episode of like the CW's Crisis on Infinite Earths,
Yeah,
where
that's what I was thinking too.
where they show up to see like Smallville Superman,
Yeah.
who like hasn't been Superman for a while, like same kind of thing. Like they're on the farm, he's wearing a flannel shirt and he's older and everything. Kind of reminded
Mhm.
me of that. And it's
Yeah.
kind of interesting because all of the other fantasy worlds are kind of bombastic and
Right.
a lot different from reality, whereas Clark just like wants to you know
Yeah. Yeah.
live out his life on the Smallville farm with his family. I thought that
Mhm.
was interesting.
Right.
Um, so yeah, that's issue 5. Ready to go to issue 6.
Yeah, I'll pick up on issue 6. It opens up with the Green Lanterns being attacked by the Shadow Army. They're like coming out of the lantern and like the power battery, I
Oh
think is
yeah.
what it's called, and they're being
Hmm.
attacked. And then the next panel, it was sort of hinted at earlier on. It's Pariah's flashback, but we kind of learned that he's sort of inventing this whole thing. Like it's not the actual
Hmm.
Great Darkness, because
Right.
earlier on they said like the darkness is not like it's amoral. It's not good or bad. It just kind of
Right. It
is.
just kind of exists. Yeah.
Yeah, and so when they were being attacked, they were kind of confused, like what's going on. But it sort of
Hmm.
turns out that Pariah is kind of manipulating a part of it, but he thinks that it's manipulating him.
Hmm.
Um, and then we cut to the big fight. The big fight at the Hall
Which
of
was
Justice.
super cool. It was not all the
Yeah,
characters, but like those panels are super cool. Where it's just a
mhm,
huge fight with so many characters.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, and like the whole fight kind of goes on. It started in issue 4, and it just kind of goes on to the end
Yeah.
of the series. It's just a
Yeah.
constant fighting, and it sounds like it would get boring, like on paper, if they're just fighting for 4 issues. But like the way the art is done is really engaging.
Oh yeah. Absolutely. Yeah,
Yeah,
that
and
what's
so yeah,
Daniel Sampier, whatever he does. I really like his art. I think I
yeah,
mentioned it last episode, but
yeah.
it's pretty cool.
Mhm. And then we cut to I'm gonna call them the original Justice League because there's like different Justice Leagues in this
Right. Yeah.
series, but it's
Yeah.
like the main Justice League. They're at Pariah's headquarters. Hal and Barry have a plan. They're gonna like use Speed Force
Hmm.
energy or
Right.
like the Green Lantern energy or whatever to travel back to Earth Zero.
Hmm.
But as we learned last issue, if that happens, then Oliver's going to die. But
Yeah.
Oliver's like, no, that's cool. Just save the world. It's all good.
Hmm.
Then he has like a little moment with Black Canary, and then we cut back to the Hall of Justice, and it's revealed that some of the heroes are now under Pariah's control. I think there was like
Hmm.
a panel where one of the lower tier, like lesser known Titans, Roundhouse, was fighting Nightwing, and that was like,
Yeah. Yeah. I
you
remember
can
that. Yeah.
fight the darkness, and so that's sort of like it's sort of spreading now. It's not just the villains.
Mhm.
More heroes show up: Jace Fox, Batman, Connor Hawk, Green
Right.
Arrow, Miss
Which
Martian, Blue Beetle, and Steel.
I thought his name was Tim Fox when I looked it up. I thought his name was Tim, but then they
Oh,
call
is
him
it Tim?
Jace in this. Well,
Yeah.
no, because like
Well,
in this issue they call him Jace. I'm kind of confused about if it is it Tim or Jace or I don't know.
there are two sons. You might be thinking of the other one.
Well, no, because the other one's Luke.
Oh, that's right.
Luke is
Batwing Fox.
Batwing.
That's
Yeah,
right.
when
That's
we
right.
talked about it, and when I looked it up, the Batman of New York City and everything, they call him Tim. So
Mm,
maybe Jay. I don't know. I'll have to look it up later, or if any of you know, let us know
yeah.
in the comments.
That's a
But
comment.
I was
Yeah.
a little confused about that.
Yeah, and so this is some of the members of the new Justice League, like Blue Beetle and I think Steel was part of that new like
Right.
Damian Wayne Justice League in the earlier
Hmm.
issues. But
Yeah.
other characters like Connor Hawk, they're new.
Yeah.
And there's other ones in this panel that I didn't recognize. I
Yeah.
think
It's.
the new Wonder Girl might be there. I'm not really sure.
Oh yeah. Yara. Yeah.
Um,
I think. Well, I think she was already there fighting with them. I
okay.
think. I could be wrong. Yeah. Yeah. Because maybe not. I don't remember. But
Yeah. It's just there are other characters
anyway.
in this
Yeah.
panel. Yeah. And then this sort of they're come in and they kind of shift the battle just enough to make an
Hmm.
opening so that Mr. Terrific and Jace or Tim can
Yeah.
get to the antimatter cannon. They can kind of point that at
Right.
Pariah, and they kind of
Right.
trap him in his little box.
Hmm.
Um, and then it's then like we already talked about this, but it's finally revealed that this was all just the Great Darkness wasn't involved. It was all just
Hmm.
Pariah's
Pariah.
imagination. And then John Kent Superman is fighting Ares and Doomsday like at the same time all by himself, and
And
he
Darkseid, I think it was like a bunch
the
of them.
yeah, and he's like holding his own, but he's kind of
Yeah.
losing.
Right. Well, yeah, I would
Yeah,
assume so. There's so many.
right.
But
Yeah.
yeah, I thought that was like very reminiscent of his dad. Like it's very much
Mhm.
something he would do, just kind of like courageously heroic with, when
Yeah,
it's kind of just like throwing yourself out there in almost a suicide mission.
right. And this moment kind of reminded me of like Captain America in Avengers Endgame, where he's there and then Falcon shows up
Mm.
and they all show up. It's kind of like that.
Yes. Yeah. It's a lot like that. Yeah.
Um, I forgot Clark Kent Superman
Yeah.
shows up and he saves
Yeah.
John and they have a
Yeah.
little moment and then the rest of the Justice League show up and they kind of
Yeah.
they don't save the day but they definitely influence the battle.
Yeah.
Okay. OG Superman shows up versus Justice League. Okay, yeah, and then they manage to defeat Pariah, but even though he's dead, the darkness is still spreading.
Hmm.
And now like the source of the darkness is Deathstroke, and then the comic ends with the issue ends with Deathstroke holding Rose and Nightwing.
Yeah.
Yeah, giant Deathstroke.
Exciting.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought this issue was really cool because it was. I
Mhm.
was honestly kind of surprised that it wasn't the last one, given how climactic
Yeah,
the battle was, and they defeated
right.
Pariah and everything. And I think Yara even got her lasso around Pariah and tried to like
That's right. I
show
forgot
him
about that. Yeah.
that the darkness wasn't controlling him; he was corrupting it. But he basically was just like, "But that would mean I've been alone this whole time." He just like couldn't accept it.
Yeah.
And I forget, how did they kill him? What did I kind of
Mhm.
forget? I'm just trying to remember. Let me pull up the
Was
comic
it
real quick.
with the cannon? Did they just like antimatter him
I'm
to death?
thinking maybe. I don't know why I can't remember
Yeah,
because I
okay,
feel like
'cause
that's
they
kind
had
of
this
important.
where they have him in the little cube, and then
Yeah.
there's this where they have like the
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
bat.
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
they shoot
I
him with the
think they
cannon.
just. Yeah, I think you're right. I think they just used the can. Yeah. No, you're right. Yeah, they just used the cannon, and he went bye bye. But then
Yeah.
obviously, Deathstroke's kind of the main villain now.
Right, and he kind of always was to a certain
Yeah.
extent,
Yeah. At
because
least, like,
Pariah wasn't.
especially
Yeah,
on Earth, Pariah was
right,
just kind of hanging out in space, whereas Deathstroke was
exactly,
leading the charge on Earth. Yeah.
right. Yeah, and so into issue 7, the final issue,
Which we
the
we have some extra artists on this one,
yes,
right?
yes, Daniel Sempere, uh, Giuseppe Camacoli?
Yeah, Kakamako, yes, it's something. It's like
Camacoli, uh, Rafael Sandoval, and Jack Herbert. I got the last one right, I know that.
right, yeah. Nice. Yeah, and it came out in December
Yeah,
on December
December.
20th. Yeah. Oh yeah,
Yeah,
and it's titled Dawn of DC, which is their
mm,
new relaunch like subtitle for all their new
Yeah.
comics this year, which for some reason on the actual issue cover it says Dawn of the DCU, not Dawn of DC,
Hmm.
which is interesting. But yeah,
I think
whatever.
that's capitalizing on like the James Gunn
Yeah,
cinematic.
that's kind of what I was thinking. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and so it all kind of opens with Nightwing is sort of like in this dark realm that we saw Pariah in earlier on in the series.
Hmm.
And he's sort of like, we don't know who he's talking to, but it turns out he's talking to Deathstroke, as we'll
Right.
learn later on. And the rest of the heroes are kind of fighting Deathstroke's like physical body, whereas like his mind is with
Hmm.
Nightwing or whatever. I don't know.
Right. Yeah. I think that's the idea.
Yeah. And then there's this kind of the transition where it has Nightwing, and then he kind of all of his suits sort of degrade until he's finally Robin again, and then
Hmm.
Deathstroke steps out of the darkness, but it's like classic Deathstroke from like the
Yeah.
80s with
Yeah.
like the white eye patch and the orange and the blue suit.
Yeah.
And they're talking about it, and Deathstroke's like I get it, like this world sucks and everyone there's just pain and darkness, so I'm just gonna
Hmm.
end it all right now.
Yeah.
Um, Yeah, and then back in the Hall of Justice, the Justice League are trying to split up because they're like, we need to fight the Dark Army, but we also need to restore the multiverse.
Hmm.
And a group that I think is Justice League Incarnate shows up.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm pretty sure. Yeah.
Yeah, because they had President Superman and then
You're right.
the Commander Carrot, I think his name is. I don't know,
is
the
is
rabbit
that his
guy.
name? I was
I think so.
wondering who the giant rabbit dude was. Okay, that's funny.
Yeah,
Commander Carrot.
something like that. I don't know.
I think it's really funny they're including some of these like really ridiculous characters in like such a
Yeah,
serious like event like this. It's
yeah,
like I
yeah.
mean they
Cool.
exist in the universe. Let's throw them in there. Detective Chimp and
Mhm.
Captain Carrot. You know.
Exactly, exactly. And so the this is kind of we get to the point where it kind of starts to fall apart a little bit because like they already
Okay.
defeated Pariah, and so we've reached the climax, and so it's all kind of like derailing for me a little bit. But like the
Mm.
speedsters are all running, and for some reason that
Oh yeah,
running
that's
is going to
true.
fix the multiverse. I don't understand that completely.
Because
But then
yeah, it's because the darkness is still there. Because like Deathstroke, the darkness from Pariah went to Deathstroke,
Mhm.
so now so it's still like kind of starting to engulf the multiverse. Because
Okay.
Deathstroke is still like there controlling it, and it's kind of like emanating from him now.
Mhm.
So it's still taking over the multiverse, even though they got rid of Pariah. So I think the Flashes, the speedsters are trying to like get rid of the darkness by like going out there and like running around and stuff. But
Okay.
it doesn't work until Doctor Light shows up,
Right.
which we'll
Dr.
get
Light
to. Yeah,
has like some sort of energy from like I'm not really sure what it is, but
I
from like
think they said the Monitor,
the Monitor, yeah, and so from
which
one of the spin-off issues, she
yeah,
gets this
right,
magic power,
yeah,
and then she's like her power with the Speed Force, it fixes sort of reverses the darkness a little bit.
right,
Um, and then Black Adam does the thing from Thor: Love and Thunder where he gives his power to
yeah,
everybody, and like they fight
yeah,
with Black Adam power.
which I thought was way cooler. Which I swear I had that photo, but for some reason it's not
Hmm.
here. Let me see if I can find it real quick. I did find it a pretty cool shot.
Yeah, the color was really cool, how they
Yeah, like
like
the blue.
incorporated the
There,
blue gold.
there we go. Yeah, it's like the Black Adam League. No,
Yeah,
and it's very much what happened in the Shazam movie and the New 52 comics, where
right.
Shazam gives all. Yeah, there we go. Where
Yeah,
Shazam gives all power, but it kind of splits it up so they're not all as powerful as
right.
Black Adam, but like combined with their other powers, it's like a major upgrade.
Exactly, exactly. And then this sort of, with all that power, they free Slade from the darkness, but now kind of transferred over to Nightwing.
Hmm.
And the multiverse and the darkness is sort of like, the multiverse. They fixed the multiverse problem, but the darkness is still
Hmm.
within Dick. But then
Right.
like he's just like the embodiment of hope and all that, which I thought was
Hmm.
really cool.
Yeah.
He just like just him being him is able to like overcome the darkness
Right.
and like sort of like fight back Slade, and then Nightwing and Black Adam defeat Slade, and then the
Hmm.
darkness is removed. And what I found was interesting was towards the end of the book, it's revealed that Slade is still alive, but he's in critical condition, and
Yeah.
the darkness sort of undid the serum that he had in him,
Right. Yeah.
which was kind of interesting.
Yeah. I
Um,
thought that was pretty interesting too.
yeah, and then we sort of enter into a little prelude. I'm not
Hmm.
epilogue. That's the right
Epilogue.
word.
Yeah.
And then like all the heroes are kind of wrapping up, and there's that one
Mhm.
shot that looks like The Rock.
Yeah. But yeah, I'm not sure which artist that was, but yeah, it was kind
Yeah,
of funny.
it's funny because he doesn't look like that in the rest of the series. It's just that one
No, just that
panel.
yeah, just
Yeah,
that one, yeah, it's kind of funny. Which yeah, I'm
right.
not sure if that was his decision, like
Mm,
because the movie was coming out, or the movie
yeah.
had come out, a couple months before, or if it was
And this
like
was probably
some
done before the movie came out
yeah.
because I
So
feel like the movie
maybe
wasn't that successful, and if it was after the movie, they're like, "Well,
yeah,
yeah, let's scrap it." But
maybe
this
it
was
was
probably
like just trying to be extra like advertisement for the movie, but it
yeah,
came out after, but
right,
maybe the
right, artist
artist didn't realize that. I don't know, but it
yeah,
is pretty funny, no, because it's so obviously him. Like,
right, right,
and it's funny. It's weird seeing him with hair. Like what?
yeah. Mhm. And the Batman and Nightwing sort of had this discussion about how like the Justice League is gone, and maybe they don't need another Justice League.
Hmm.
Sort of like Nightwing's going to take like the team in a different direction, and which
Hmm.
we now know is we're going to talk about this later, but it's going to be
Yeah.
the main team is going to be the Titans.
Yeah.
And the issue ends. I thought this was really interesting. Amanda Waller's talking to the Light,
Hmm.
and they're like, she's like, we need to have this, we need to keep the superheroes in check. And it sort of sounds like a totalitarian regime kind of thing. And they're like, no, we don't
Hmm.
want to do that. Instead, we want to kill all of the metahumans. And then,
Yeah,
like, the last panel of
which
it
is worse. Yeah.
is her with her team. I don't
Which
recognize all of them, but there's Peacemaker, and then there's a woman that looks like Peacemaker.
yeah,
Maybe the Batman who laughs in the back. I'm not sure.
I think that might be like a weird version of like King Shark or something.
Okay.
I really have no idea. Do you know who that like Batman? Like he looks familiar, but I
No.
can't remember. Well, it's Batman, but it's also Superman on there. I feel like
Yeah.
he's one of those like event characters that just kind of popped up during some weird like event. I
Yeah,
think
during during not I was gonna say Dark
Death
Crisis Metal,
Metal.
during Death Metal, that was right.
Yeah,
There was like they go to different worlds and each world has like a
yeah,
twisted version of Batman. So I
yeah.
think this might be one
That
of
might
those.
be one of them. Yeah, because I
Yeah.
definitely see Joker influences on that too.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. But found that was interesting, like the whole Peacemaker, like he looks exactly like John Cena's Peacemaker.
Mhm. Right.
So I'm assuming that was on purpose, whether that is just kind of a like thing they like comics do that a lot. They start making the costumes look more like the
Mhm.
movies, if it's either
Yeah.
that or if it is maybe they are going to have like, some direct because I know James Gunn said he wanted to have like some direct um tie-ins between the movies and the comics. So
Right.
maybe they're kind of setting that up. I don't know. It's kind of hard to
Mhm.
tell.
Yeah, and off of that, let's kind of jump into the new the Dawn of the DC, the titles that they've
Yeah.
announced so far.
Yes.
And this is just the first half of this year.
Yeah.
In March, yeah, this article is chronological. So we're going to start in
Cool.
March with maybe the most interesting title on this list
Hmm.
is the Unstoppable Doom Patrol. And
Oh
that's really
yeah.
interesting because in my mind, the Doom Patrol was always one of those characters like Deadpool or Harley Quinn, where they're like
Mm.
not really in the main continuity because they break the fourth wall and do a lot of weird shit. So, but they're
Yeah.
kind of like there, but not really. And so
Yeah.
I'm curious to see how they play into the larger
Huh.
narrative.
Yeah, that'll be kind of interesting. Also, they haven't really had like a big series for a while.
Yeah, there was one, I think in like 2017.
Hmm.
That's the last I heard of it.
Okay.
Um, and then Superboy, this is the Connor Kent Superboy.
Hmm.
He's going to have a
Oh,
limited
cool. All right.
series. This was one, I don't know if DC still does this, but on Twitter they have polls about like what title do you want to see? And
Mm-hmm.
this was the one that won last year's poll.
Yeah, I might have to start collecting those because I do really like Connor's Superboy.
Yeah. Yeah.
I might check that out.
Hmm. And then the next one in April is The Green Arrow, also written by Joshua Williams. And this
Oh.
is the sort of the Green Arrow family, like Black Canary,
Oh.
Huntress, Roy Harper. They're going to be searching for Oliver Queen.
Okay, I was about to ask, like, is Oliver back now? No, because
Yeah.
he died. No.
Yeah. And then
Interesting.
obviously, like the probably the big one is the Titans featuring,
Yeah.
yeah, the same lineup
It's pretty
as
much the
the
OG Titans for the most
original. Yeah.
part,
The Wolfman and Perez run.
which is probably my favorite lineup, honestly.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
really like all the characters on there, and they just feel like classic Titans characters. How do
Mhm.
you feel about them kind of replacing the Justice League?
I like it, but
Hmm.
what I'm not as I don't know how I feel about it being exactly the same roster as it was in the '80s. I feel
Mm,
like because a lot of times I think every Titans title, as far as I know, has introduced at least one or more new characters, and this is probably
hmm
the first one in
hmm
a while that hasn't done that. So I'm not sure
Okay.
how I feel about that.
Okay.
Also, it's written by Tom Taylor, who's been doing Nightwing for the past couple years, and he's
Right.
not, in my opinion, he's not doing the best job. But it's I don't
Okay.
know.
All right. Fair
Yeah,
enough. Yeah, I
uh,
feel like they were definitely leading up to that in this Dark
right.
Crisis because, like,
Yeah,
it
yeah.
seemed like the young characters, especially like the Titans, like Nightwing, and
Mhm.
also Jonathan Kent, but they were kind of taking the reins and really like protecting the Earth and everything, while the
Yeah.
Justice League was trapped. So I think that kind of makes sense. It's kind of cool. They've been leading up to that, and
Mhm.
I feel like they're all adults now, so it's not like a
Yeah.
bunch of teenagers. I feel like I guess it remains to be seen whether they are as effective as the Justice League, but I think it's a cool idea
Mhm.
at
Yeah,
least for now. And I'm
absolutely.
I'm I'm glad they didn't rename them like the Titan League or something. I'm glad
Yeah.
they're still just Titans.
Yeah, exactly. But on that note, I would have preferred if there was, like, a John Kent Superman in here or something like that.
I was
Maybe
about
the
to say
Wonder
I don't
Girl
really
or some
see many heavy hitters besides
Yeah,
Raven, but
yeah,
she's different because she's like a magic heavy hitter.
right.
Like yeah, I feel like John Kent would have been a cool addition.
Mhm.
Like having an actual Superman, which maybe they will. Maybe this is just like the initial
Yeah, that's what I'm
roster, and they'll
hoping.
add characters. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. The next one coming out in May is Green Lantern starring
Mm,
Hal Jordan. This will be written by Jeremy Adams, and Jon Stewart will also have a supporting role.
okay.
That's probably just because of the announcement from James Gunn. They wanna kinda capitalize on that, I'm assuming.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um
That makes sense.
Batman: The Brave and the Bold, written by Tom King. Uh, yeah, I don't know exactly how this is gonna be different from the other Batmans. There's not a whole lot
Hmm.
here telling
Okay.
that, but it's interesting that Tom King is back on. He was writing the main Batman story for a couple of years, but
Hmm.
he was supposed to write the first 100 issues, but they let him go after like 80 or something because the rumor
Okay.
was they didn't like how he was going to end it. And so they
Oh.
let him go early. And so it's
Hmm.
interesting that he's back on Batman so soon after
Yeah.
that.
Hmm.
Um, the next one coming out in May is Cyborg. He looks like he's returning
Oh.
back to Detroit for a simpler life,
Yeah.
but that then it says dot dot dot, not that he'll get it.
Right. Sure. Yeah.
Um,
That could
but
be
yeah, I don't.
interesting though, kind of seeing Cyborg, which I'm wondering how that goes along with the Titan series though, because he's in
Yeah,
Titans. Yeah.
that's a good point. Yeah, again with the Doom Patrol, I don't think there's. It's been a couple years since there's been a standalone Cyborg book, at least as far as I
Hmm.
know.
Yeah. That's what I was thinking too. Yeah.
Mhm. And then Shazam, that'll be written by Mark Waid, featuring the return of Billy Batson, and so I think
Yeah. I was gonna say
in
he wasn't really in Dark Crisis Shazam.
yeah, because in the Titans Academy story, the book that was canceled like a year and a half ago, he
Mm,
was in that, and for some reason he had to like go to the Rock of Eternity and like just stay there and
mm,
protect it or something like that. So that's where
mhm.
he's been for the past couple of years.
He'd be a
Um,
cool addition to the Titans too.
yeah, yes, he would. And the next one is the Penguin. It says in parentheses working title. I don't know what else you possibly call that.
Yeah,
Uh,
right.
also written by
Cobblepot. I don't know.
yeah, also written by Tom King.
Oh,
Sees
okay.
Oswald Cobblepot forced back into the organized crime by the U.S. government. That'll
Hmm,
come out in June.
interesting.
And then the last book that's announced so far, also coming out in June, is Steelworks. There's not a creative team attached to it, but it'll
Mm.
feature both Jeremy Irons and his niece Natasha Irons.
Jeremy Irons?
I'm sorry, that's not the first time I've said that. It's
I
John
was I
Irons.
was gonna say like what now? Is he a DC character? I mean, but besides Alfred, no.
Yeah, exactly.
John Henry is that?
Yeah, John Henry Irons. Yeah,
Okay,
yeah,
yeah. I don't know. I'd read a comic about Jeremy Irons. I don't know.
yeah. I mean, I would too.
I think there is another one. I guess it's not in that article, but there's the Action
Oh,
Comics
yes, yes.
1051, which I guess is supposed to be like the like kind of starting a Superman family thing.
Mhm.
Which w- which one is supposed to be Connor? It's like
I think Connor's the one in the leather jacket on in the back.
okay, I thought so. Yeah, they kind of had him going back to his like original costume.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, because
And then I
I
think
really don't. Is the one in the middle Clark, or I'm assuming that's Clark?
yeah, the one in the middle in the front, I'm pretty sure that's Clark, and then there's gonna be that's
Uh,
John and Kara behind him,
okay.
and over to the right of
Mhm.
John, I think I don't know who there's a Chinese Superman. I don't know what
Oh
his name
yeah,
is, but it's
I think
Super
you're right.
Dash
Yeah.
Man. I
Okay.
don't know who the robot is, and I don't know who the two kids are.
Yeah.
But
Interesting. Yeah, I
yeah.
think I kind of prefer Jonathan's old suit, honestly.
Yeah, with the cape, it's yeah.
It looked cooler. Yeah. I mean, yeah. I don't know. I feel like the jacket thing's kind of Connor's thing,
Mhm.
but yeah, that's that. I guess. What did you think about Dark Crisis, like as a whole, like the
Um,
series?
yeah, I really liked it. It sort of
Hmm.
devolved and it kind of ended. I mean, I still liked it when it
Hmm.
ended, but it just seemed
Hmm.
like it was more just like action and not really a whole lot else going on, which is not a bad thing. It's far from the
Yeah.
worst comic I've ever read, but it's not
Yeah.
like amazing. But I
Yeah.
enjoyed it.
Yeah. I was about to say, I think I preferred some of the other like big events that have happened recently. Like I think the
Mhm.
ones that come to mind are Death Metal and like Doomsday Clock and everything. I
Mhm.
kind of like it more than like say Flashpoint, at least
Right.
in theory, because like I feel like not that Flashpoint's bad, but I kind of prefer the whole like multiversal like
Mhm.
climactic event as opposed to just like resetting time, and that's why things are different,
Yeah.
because that launched the whole new 52.
Mhm.
So I'm glad they've been kind of following this multiversal trend, and I like that this one did the same thing, but I feel like it's less confusing than say
Yeah.
like Death Metal. Death Metal went into like so much lore. I was like my head was
Yeah.
kind of swimming trying to like understand all of it.
Right.
And yeah, like you said, there was a lot of action, which I definitely thought was cool, which I feel
Mhm.
like you kind of need for a big event like this.
Yeah.
But I feel like they did it in a pretty good way. They did a pretty good job of like splitting the different teams and characters, so it wasn't
Mhm.
just like so much going on, like so many characters all in like one, panel. When they did that, it was like
Yeah.
only for a couple, climactic battle sequences.
Yeah, and they did a good job splitting up the action, like, it's not, like, focusing on
Hmm.
one character the entire time,
Yeah,
but there's a lot of people who get the spotlight
yeah.
throughout the book.
Yeah, and I did like that Deathstroke was kind of the main villain,
Mhm. Yeah.
because I think he's probably my favorite like DC villain,
Mhm.
and I feel like he isn't given a whole lot to do outside of like just being part of a team
Yeah.
or fulfilling a job or something. So I
Mhm.
thought it was kind of cool that they actually gave him like the darkness at the end, and it was kind of like
Yeah.
his. It was kind of
Yeah.
his show for a little bit there, but I also
Mhm.
like that they didn't kind of make his characters just be like a second pariah, or like
Mm.
he kind of like had a very nihilistic
Yeah.
reason for what he was doing, which I think really fits his character,
Mhm.
as opposed to him just being like, well, now I want to take over the world.
Right, right.
I definitely I thought they did a pretty good job with that whole thing with Deathstroke's story.
Mhm.
I know last time you said something about you weren't a huge fan of what they did with Black Adam towards the end of this. What
Yeah,
was
it definitely feels like as the story goes on, it feels like it's more like he's more forced into the spotlight. It seems like because of the
mm,
movie was coming out, they kinda wanted to
mm,
push more Black Adam.
yeah,
And, like,
that's fair.
it didn't ruin it, it just kinda felt like,
Uh,
why is he still here? I didn't really it doesn't really
yeah,
feel as connected to the
they
rest
did
of the
kind of make
story.
him a main character for not a huge reason. I think the only main
Right.
reason that made sense was it seems like he was kind of immune to the darkness,
Mhm.
because either that or he just like was super good at escaping it, because like he was
Right.
he was in so many groups that got corrupted, and he's like, oh
Yeah.
crap, oh well, I'm gonna peace out.
Right. Right.
So I guess that, but yeah, I definitely see what you're saying there, and it probably was because of the movie. They were trying to
Yeah.
hype up
Yeah.
the movie, but
Absolutely.
at the same time, like half of it came out like after the movie had come out. So,
Right. Right.
but yeah, I
Yeah.
think that's pretty much it. Is that
Yeah, that's all
all you
I
wanted to
had.
say?
Yeah.
Cool. All right. Well, that was Dark Crisis issues 4 through 7.
Mhm.
Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us and watching this episode. If you would like to support the Cultured Nerd and help us bring more content to you, go ahead and check us out at patreon.com/the cultured nerd. And there is a specific tier for our show. So if you'd like to support me and Luke,
Yeah.
go ahead and find that tier. And thank you to all of our current Patreon supporters. I have been your host, Michael Malillo, and my co host is Luke S.
Mhm.
And be sure to like and subscribe. And if you want to check out the Cultured Nerd socials and podcasts and all the other stuff, check out that QR code on the left. And if you want to check out Luke and me and Luke's YouTube channel and podcast, all that stuff, go ahead and use the QR code on the right. Thanks again for watching. We will see you next time.
Peace.